Africa is a vast continent made up of 54 countries, countless cultures, and nearly every kind of landscape you can imagine. And while most people instantly think of lions, elephants, and giraffes when it comes to African wildlife, the continent is also home to some of the strangest and least known creatures on Earth. From bizarre adaptations to animals that seem almost otherworldly, here are 20 of the strangest animals living in Africa. Number 20. Colobus gariza. The Colobus gariza also goes by the moniker of mantled gariza. This creature is an old-world monkey that is native to Africa's forests and woodlands. The fancy-looking monkey is pretty recognizable amongst other monkeys. It has black fur and a sweeping white mantle that hangs down at its sides and a long and bushy tail which has a white tip. The snazzy outfit also has the benefit of allowing these monkeys to signal their social status to each other within the group. Monkeys of this species are kind of middling-sized, and adult males will weigh up to 33 pounds. The females will generally turn out slightly smaller. These monkeys spend most of their lives hanging out in the treetops where they enjoy a whole lot of leaping, as you may expect monkeys to do, really. In fact, they're able to leap up to 49 feet between branches. Their diet is made up mostly of young leaves, fruits, and flowers, which they digest with the help of a specialized multi-chambered stomach that is adapted for fermenting all of the super fibrous plant material that they consume. These monkeys live in social groups of 3 to even 15 in number, and the groups typically consist of one dominant male, a bunch of females, and their offspring, and they're at risk from all kinds of threats. These include all of the usual deforestation, habitat destruction, as well as the hunting for bushmeat and the pet trade. Their unique fur has also made them targets for ceremonial and commercial use in some regions. Number 19. The meerkat. You've probably seen a meerkat before. With their funny habits and cute little faces, these small mammals are a popular African creature with animal lovers all over the world. Meerkats are part of the mongoose family and are found all across the dry areas of the Kalahari and Namib deserts. They burrow in the sandy soil while creating extensive networks of tunnels. They live in groups called mobs or clans, and one group can have as much as 30 individuals. At the top of their social structure in a clan is a breeding pair which is dominant over the rest of its members. All of the others will help to look after the baby meerkat, and this system becomes essential for all of the small creatures' survival. Meerkats have a slim and long body that measures about 11 inches in length, and then they have a tail which is about 7.5 inches long. The meerkat's fur can be either gray or tan, and they have darker bands across their backs, which is a sort of camouflage in the desert landscape. Their eyes are circled by dark patches, which helps them to reduce the bright glare from the sun, while also helping the little meerkat to spot predators. They work as a team and they provide for and protect the rest of the group. Most of them will forage for food. They eat mainly insects as well as occasional small vertebrates, eggs, and plants. But they leave one or more individuals standing upright on their hind legs, scanning the surroundings for any potential threat. Upon detecting danger, the lookout will make alarm calls and the rest of the group dashes back to the refuge of their burrows. Number 18. Aardvark. The aardvark is a very weird-looking creature. The funny animals are actually named for their peculiar features, and the word aardvark comes from the Afrikaans term that means earth pig because of its burrowing behavior and its cute pig-like snout. Aardvarks are generally about 7 feet long, which includes their sizable 28-inch tail, and they weigh about 145 pounds. Yes, they are bigger than I thought as well. They mostly go around eating ants and termites, and their arched bodies and long snouts seem to be perfectly adapted for hoovering up all of those tasty bugs. They also have some really effective digging tools. They have powerful legs and claws that work like shovels, and add to that their super sticky and extra long tongue, and you have a bug-eating machine. They can eat literally thousands of insects every single night when they emerge from their burrows under cover of darkness to forage for food. Number 17. The fennec fox. The fennec fox can be found all across the deserts of North Africa. It has almost comically oversized ears that can measure up to about 15 centimeters in length. Naturally, their ears are super useful for hearing all kinds of things, and they even allow the fennec fox to detect prey as it moves underground. But their ears, well, they're also really helpful for dissipating heat so that the fox can regulate its body temperature. Its sand-colored fur makes for decent camouflage against the desert landscape, and that fur is also extra thick on its paws for protection from the scorching hot sands. As they are mostly nocturnal, these foxes avoid the worst of the heat of the day in the Sahara and will mainly hang out in burrows to stay out of the sun. They hunt alone, but may well live together in small communities with several dens close by to each other or even interconnected. These creatures are well adapted to their extreme environment, and they can get all the hydration they need from their food, so they don't have to have any extra water in order to survive. Number 16. The gray-crowned crane. The gray-crowned crane lives in the wetlands and savannas of sub-Saharan Africa. These birds have gray bodies, and wings that are tipped with white along with a bright red throat pouch and yellow feathers on its head. They are about 3 feet tall and have a wingspan of almost 6 and 1/2 feet. They have super long legs that are made for wading through all of those wetlands. These birds are particularly culturally significant and are in fact the national bird of Uganda. And you can even see it on the country's flag if you want to have a look. These cranes are some super fancy dancers and really into throwing shapes for some elaborate courtship rituals. These involve leaping, bowing, and a bunch of wing flapping, all accompanied by a lot of loud calls that sound like trumpets honking. This is what gets the lady cranes going. Apparently, funnily enough, pairs of these birds often perform these displays to strengthen their own lifelong bonds, and this is why they're used as a symbol of fidelity in many cultures. Now it's time for today's topic. After days of relentless rain in a remote African village, locals awoke to a terrifying sight. A colossal centipede-like creature sprawled across the muddy road. Children and adults gathered cautiously, whispering legends of ancient forest spirits while photographing the bizarre discovery. The creature measured over 20 feet, its orange limbs twitching slightly before falling still. Experts who reviewed the images suggested it could be an unknown giant arthropod species displaced by flooding. However, skeptics argue the footage may have been digitally manipulated or staged with a model. To this day, villagers insist they saw something real, and it left behind deep, unexplainable tracks. Number 15. African civet. The African civet has an unusual black and gray coat, which has markings that are kind of like a leopard's spots, and it has a distinctive bushy ringtail. Its face has a mask of black, a bit like a raccoon's, and all of the stuff makes the civet really well camouflaged in the vegetation of its environment. These creatures are omnivorous and opportunistic feeders. They have a diet that includes fruits, small mammals, birds, insects, and even carrion, and they are not fussy, which helps them to survive in all types of conditions. One of the weirdest things about the African civet is its ability to produce a substance called civetone. This is a musky secretion that they expel from the perineal glands located near the tail. That is weird, but what people do with it is even more strange. In the past, this civetone stuff was prized by the perfume industry for its long-lasting and, earthy aroma. Yes, that's right. They used the butt juice of the African civet to make fancy schmancy perfume. How in the hell anyone ever discovered to use that stuff in that way is completely beyond me. But people are crazy, so who knows? These days, there are mainly a lot of synthetic versions of the substance, so you probably are not rubbing civet leakings on your pulse points. Well, probably, but I can't make you any guarantees. Out in the wild, civetone, of course, has a very different purpose, and that's territorial marking. Civets will use it to communicate with each other, marking boundaries and signaling their reproductive status, not to make anything smell like a posh old lady. Number 14. Rhinoceros. The critically endangered African rhino is one of the most extraordinary animals on Earth. The few that are left in the wild are still at great risk of poaching. Their horns have long been considered valuable, even though their horn is made of the very same stuff as our fingernails and nothing else. And the disgusting illegal trade in rhino horns has resulted in these animals being hunted to the verge of extinction where they do still exist. Rhinos live in grasslands and open savanna all across Kenya, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Namibia. And there are 2 species of African rhino, the black rhino and the white rhino, although they're actually both the same gray color, which is weird. But both types of rhinoceros are also incredibly powerful and massive. These animals typically weigh anywhere between 1,760 to 3,090 pounds, but there have also been some as big as 6,385 pounds. You would not want one of these chaps to be stepping on your toes. Equipped with 2 horns and an extremely strong, powerful frame, the rhino's strength lies in its ability to charge at potential aggressors and overpower them with brute force. Unfortunately, the poacher still seems to have the upper hand. Despite the rhino's apparent strengths, these beautiful creatures are running out of time. Number 13. The dwarf mongoose. The dwarf mongoose is actually the smallest carnivore in Africa. It weighs just a handful of ounces and measures only inches in length. But the dwarf mongoose is still a savvy and adaptable predator. Despite its size, the dwarf mongoose is a skilled hunter. They'll eat insects like termites, beetles, and grasshoppers, but they also enjoy small reptiles, rodents, and even bird eggs. The mongoose uses its extremely sharp claws as weapons and its extremely finely tuned senses with ruthless efficiency. Because these creatures are so tiny, their metabolism is quite fast and they need to eat often, which means that they'll have to be good at hunting or they simply will not survive. They're clever little things that work together as a team in order to ensure their own survival. But they're also unusual in that they'll cooperate with other species to get what they need. They often form mutualistic partnerships with birds like the hornbill, and while foraging together, the mongoose flushes out insects for the birds, who in turn provide an extra set of eyeballs to spot a predator. This collaborative effort is just one of the ways that the small and feisty animal like the mongoose has used its wits to keep up in the harsh environment of the desert. Number 12. The dik-dik. The dik-dik is a really dinky sort of antelope that comes from eastern and southern Africa. Just look at how cute the thing is. Dik-diks are only about 12 to 16 inches tall at the shoulder, weighing anywhere between 6.6 and 15.4 pounds, which makes them amongst the very teeniest of all the antelopes in the entire world. Dik-diks just love to hang out in savannas and shrubby areas. Because they are so small and tasty looking, predators are especially keen on eating them, and so dik-diks sensibly choose spaces where they have a lot of cover as well as the stuff that they just love to eat. Their diet will mainly consist of leaves, shoots, and fruits, which helps them to stay hydrated without needing to find water all that often, and that also cuts down on the getting eaten part of things for them as well. These cutesy little antelopes are lovers and not fighters. They will usually form a lifelong pair and live together in a territory of about 12 acres. They communicate with and mark their territory using these glands that are below their eyeballs, which secrete a dark and sticky substance onto grass stems and twigs. That sounds kind of disgusting. The other thing that makes this tiny creature so unique is its unusual call. If a dik-dik feels threatened, they will make a noise like a whistle that kind of goes zik-zik, and this is related to how they got their name. Number 11. The klipspringer. The klipspringer is a small type of antelope which has some pretty impressive agility and some unusual kinds of adaptations to the rocky terrains in which it lives. The creature has a rather wild ability. It can stand on the very tips of its hooves thanks to the unique structure of its foot joints. This allows it to navigate along really narrow ledges and super precarious rock formations, evading predators like leopards and hyenas while not plunging to a hideous death on the rocks down below. And that's nice. Other cool adaptations include their really dense coat of fur, which is made up of hollow, brittle hairs. This gives them great insulation against extreme temperatures, as well as making for extra effective camouflage against those rocky landscapes in which they inhabit. This natural concealment combined with their agility makes them really rather good at avoiding being eaten. Number 10. Somali ostrich. The Somali ostrich is one of the largest birds of the world. The things are 9 feet tall and can weigh up as much as 286 pounds. Its long and powerful legs are built for speed, and they can sprint at up to 43 miles per hour when they're threatened. Unlike the common ostrich, the Somali ostrich has a bluish-gray neck and thighs, and skin in males. This fancy coloring gets brighter and more noticeable during the breeding season when these big-ass boys are out there trying to impress the ladies. As these huge birds are native to the hot and dry regions of Somalia, Ethiopia, and others, they have developed some pretty useful adaptations in the harsh environment. The feathers provide insulation against the blazing sun, and also they have the ability to go without water for longer periods of time. The bird actually gets most of its hydration from the plants that it consumes, which is handy in a place with no water to speak of. Number 9. The Lelwel hartebeest. The Lelwel hartebeest is yet another type of antelope from Africa's savannas and grasslands. There seem to be dozens of species of these sort of creatures, but then again, all of those big cats need to eat now, don't they? These hartebeests are an important part of the ecosystem in the habitat. They do work dispelling seeds and turning over the earth, and they're a lot less about fast running than many of the other antelope. These muscular creatures are more of an endurance athlete than a sprinter, so they can travel all the way across vast distances in search of food and water. This has given the hartebeest the edge when it comes to adapting to different environmental conditions from the arid to the wetter regions of their range. And of course, humans have messed up a lot of these places, and so these animals are now more fragmented and isolated in smaller pockets than they may have otherwise naturally been. They were once extremely widespread, but now they're listed as vulnerable on the IUCN list, with certain populations experiencing a massive decline in numbers. There are now areas which offer a protected space for the hartebeest, which offers hope for the future of the species. Number 8. The greater kudu. The greater kudu also goes by the way cooler and much more spooky name of the gray ghost of Africa. It's a type of antelope with spiral horns that lives across many types of environments in southern and eastern Africa. Males of the species have the super long and spiraling horns, and these can grow up to 6 feet in length and form 2 or 3 full twists. Their coats are gray-brown with markings that help them camouflage in the arid landscape of their habitat. They are large amongst antelopes, and the males can weigh as much as 463 pounds. They measure about 5 feet 3 inches tall. The females are much smaller in stature. Those horns are an important part of mating for kudus. During the breeding season, the dominant males will compete with each other for the females, and they show off their fancy horn work with wrestling contests that can last for hours. These duels will rarely result in injury, as their elaborate displays are often just to establish their dominance. It sounds like it would be super boring having to hang about with all of these macho posturing wallies, though. Number 7. The sable antelope. The sable antelope is a rather rotund sort of beast. These creatures have short necks, long faces, and dark manes. And both the males and females possess these extremely twirly ringed horns that poke out of the tops of their heads and then curve backwards. These can reach a rather impressive 1.6 meters in length when they are fully grown. In the wild, those horns are not just for show. They're deadly weapons used to ward off predators like lions and hyenas. Fierce battles between rival males are also common, with the antelopes clashing head-to-head in dramatic duels for dominance over a herd. These fights can last several minutes and often leave scars that mark the victor for life. Herds are usually led by a dominant male who protects dozens of females and their calves, patrolling the savanna like a vigilant guardian. Despite their bulk, sable antelopes are surprisingly swift, capable of outrunning many threats when escape is the safer option. Their striking coats and fearless reputation have earned them the title Black Warriors among local tribes. Watching a herd silhouetted against the African horizon is said to be one of the most breathtaking wildlife sights on the continent. When these antelopes are first born, they're a kind of reddish-brown color. They have almost no markings, but as they get older, the marks on their fur begin to appear, and the rest of the coat gets darker and darker. In fact, the older that they get, the stronger the contrast in their coat becomes. Number 6. Pangolin. Although these bizarre creatures have more than a whiff of reptile about them, they're actually mammals, But even though they are mammals, it is easy to see how they might be confused with reptiles. Pangolins are covered in scales, and they use this super scaly body to protect themselves from would-be predators by curling into a tight ball. And their sharp and pointy scales are then usually enough to send the danger packing. These cookie-looking creatures are often called scaly anteaters, and it doesn't take much of a genius to figure that one out. That's right, they eat ants. Oh, and termites and larvae as well. They do this with an extremely long and very sticky tongue. In fact, the pangolin's tongue can grow to lengths that exceed their entire body. But life as a pangolin isn't all about tonguing and snaffling up ants. These are some of the world's most trafficked animals as well, and they've suffered for many years as a result. Pangolins are in high demand in some countries, especially in Vietnam and China, where their meat is considered a delicacy and their scales are used in folk medicine. So, it kind of sucks to be a pangolin, but fortunately, there are now more laws than ever all over the world being put into place to try and protect this unique species. Number 5. Okapi. A vague relative of the giraffe, the okapi is a long-legged hoofed animal that also chews the cud. But other than those shared characteristics, the okapi really is a unique-looking creature. Found predominantly in the rainforests of the Democratic Republic of Congo, this animal was unknown to the scientific animal prodding community until as late as 1901. That's likely because it was simply busy minding its own business in a place that even now has parts that are unmapped. The okapi has a shorter neck and shorter legs than the giraffe. This dark brown, almost a purplish-black color in places and white. It has striped legs and a long tongue. And the male of the species is generally about 8 feet tall, the female usually slightly taller and heavier. Much like the animals that it vaguely resembles, the okapi will give birth to one single calf. Their gestation is a rather lengthy 14 months, but this also means that when the baby is born, it's well and ready to stand up on its own to suckle from its mother within about a half an hour of being born. In the dangerous environment of the wild, the mother okapi will hide her baby in order to keep it safe while she goes to feed, returning to nurse the baby on a regular basis. Number 4. The secretary bird. Now, this is an unusual and pretty aggressive bird with some fancy feet. The secretary bird is a snake-killing expert. These creatures will be taking no nonsense from anyone, let alone the least of all, a snake. In fact, they won't only dispense with a snake in an efficient and fearless fashion. Armed with legs that can deliver bone-crushing kicks at speeds of up to 50 miles per hour, this bird has a strike powerful enough to shatter a snake's spine instantly. Observers in the wild have seen secretary birds stomp venomous cobras into submission before the reptiles even had a chance to strike back. Their tall, crane-like stature, sometimes reaching over 4 feet, allows them to tower above the grass, spotting prey from a safe distance. Farmers in Africa have long revered them as living pest control, a natural defense against the region's most dangerous reptiles. They're also incredibly intelligent hunters, often flushing snakes out of hiding with their wings before delivering precise, brutal blows. What makes the spectacle even more mesmerizing is the way they combine grace with violence, almost dancing in rhythm while dispatching their prey. Even lions and other large predators tend to give them a wide berth when they're on the hunt, a testament to their fierce reputation. The secretary bird doesn't just rely on brute force either. It's calculated, knowing exactly where to strike a snake's head to end the fight quickly. Oh no, These birds will do a flipping river dance on that snake's head before they get through with that reptile. In fact, the snake-hating stylings of the secretary bird are so well appreciated that people all across Africa keep these birds as pets in order to protect their farms and homes from pests like snakes and rodents. They don't only kill them either. These badass birds love to eat a snake as their favorite snack, and they won't turn their beak up at such a nice juicy lizard either. Number 3. The shoebill. The shoebill is apparently a long-legged wading bird, but this one is really, really big. He's flying. He's flying. Get him. Get him. They're also known as whale-bills or whale-headed storks, and that gives a fairly strong indication of just how big that bill actually is. When you first see one, it almost looks prehistoric, like a relic left over from the age of dinosaurs. Its piercing yellow eyes give it a menacing stare, and its slow, deliberate movements add to its uncanny presence. Locals sometimes call it a statue bird because it can stand motionless for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike at unsuspecting prey. The shoebill's favorite meal is lungfish, but it will also go after baby crocodiles and turtles, clamping down with its massive beak in a swift, brutal snap. Its call is just as unusual, often described as a machine gun rattle, echoing through the swamp like a burst of gunfire. Wildlife photographers travel from all over the world just to capture a glimpse of this bizarre bird in its natural habitat. Because shoebills live in such remote, marshy areas, spotting one is considered a rare privilege, a bucket list experience for many birdwatchers. Despite their intimidating appearance, they're surprisingly shy around humans and often retreat into thick reeds when disturbed. Some cultures see them as omens or mystical guardians of the wetlands, adding to the bird's legendary status. Watching one take flight is a spectacle, its huge wings unfurling like a cloak, carrying the heavy bird effortlessly across the swamp. These big old birds can be found in tropical East Africa, where they live in the swamps of countries from Zambia to South Sudan. The shoebill can be as tall as 55 inches and have a wingspan of up to 8 feet and 6 inches. As well as having a really big bill, these funny-looking birds are also known for their massive feet. Their middle toes alone can be almost 7.5 inches long. Number 2. The East African oryx. The East African oryx lives in the arid grasslands and deserts of East Africa. These extraordinary animals seem to be able to thrive where few others can. The animals are basically a medium-sized kind of antelope, and they have a pale beige coat with those characteristic black and white facial markings and a black stripe that runs down each side like go faster stripes, but with the added benefit of being a useful bit of camouflage in the open landscape. Both the males and females of the species have amazing long and spear-like horns. These can grow up to 47 inches and are a dangerous weapon that the oryx will use to fight it out in territorial disagreements and when they need to defend themselves against predators. These antelopes are also amazing at conserving water and regulating their body temperature. They have an awesome adaptation which allows them to raise their body temperature so that they don't need to sweat, and that helps them to avoid losing any water. This ability to retain as much water as possible is super useful in an environment that is as harsh as the desert, and there are very few water sources to begin with. Those that do exist are prime hunting spots for predators which will simply wait for thirsty prey to show up and then be forced into the open when they need a drink, and then it is curtains for those animals. The oryx will avoid many of these potential deadly encounters because of its remarkable adaptations to the dry environment. Its diet consists of grassland shrubs and acacia pods, and it has an extraordinary ability to extract moisture from its food. The species is known to be able to go without direct water sources for extended periods of time, relying on morning dew and the moisture content of vegetation instead. When water is available, the oryx will drink, but it's far less dependent on it than many other herbivores. This independence allows it to venture into regions that are too harsh for other large mammals, which also give the added benefit of reducing the competition for resources, and that's why these animals are able to thrive in such a condition. Number 1. The African wild dog. The power of the African wild dog lies in their pack hunting skills. These speedy and agile animals always work in a group to hunt their prey, and without the mighty jaws of a leopard or the immense size of the lion, these wild dogs have to rely on the strength of their numbers and their extremely good eyesight to be successful hunters out on the African plains. When they set their sights on a target, a silent coordination takes over the pack, each dog instinctively knowing where to run. Some sprint ahead to cut off escape routes, while others hang back, waiting for the moment to close in. It's a calculated chase that leaves their prey exhausted and confused. In many cases, the victim will collapse from sheer exhaustion long before the dogs actually reach it. Once down, the pack wastes no time. Feeding begins within seconds as every member, young and old, takes part. Their efficiency is so extraordinary that their hunts succeed nearly 80% of the time, one of the highest rates in the animal kingdom. Watching them work together is like watching a well-rehearsed performance, where every role is perfectly understood. Even predators like lions often think twice before trying to challenge a pack mid-meal. African wild dogs have great stamina. They're able to maintain speeds of 37 miles per hour for several miles when in pursuit of their prey across the savanna. But the greatest strength is definitely the way that they stick together. These wild dogs know that not only is there safety in numbers, but there's an awesome power to it as well. To be able to effectively track and chase prey, encircle it and bring it down, and then defend their dinner from scavengers and other predators takes a whole lot of group knowledge and solid teamwork. And these dogs, well, they certainly have all of that and more. Puppy power, you know. That wraps up today's journey through the savannas and forests of Africa. We came across so many fascinating and unusual animals, but which one stood out to you the most? Which creature captured your imagination, and why? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're here, don't forget to check out the other amazing videos showing up on your screen. I'll see you next time.